A new world, huh?
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei after achieving Harem went to Valkyrie Drive World movie. Before we start, please go support Draconarius23 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Half a year had passed since the Trihexa incident and a little over 3 weeks since Issei won the Azazel Cup after defeating his friend rival Volley Lucifer. Now Issei and his fiancées were living peacefully. His parents were away on a trip and of course, he was under the watchful eye of the faction leaders. Now in his 3rd year, Issei, a high-class devil and Rias' pawn, his future wife, receives a call from someone he hasn't seen since moving from Kuo 3 years ago. A wealthy widow who, along with her daughter, has become important to Issei. With the permission of his future wives and the leaders, Issei will enter an island to rescue his friend, unaware that he will reunite with several people and that the mission will bring more than it seems. Prologue: A new adventure for the Op-Eye Dragon. Prologue. Haidu residence. Issei's room. Half a year has passed since the Trihexa incident and a few weeks since the Azazel Cup event. Issei Haidu, the current Sekiryuutei, also known as Op-Eye Dragon, was sleeping with all his girls in a large bed they had made for him, all of them naked. Why? Well, I'll just say that ever since Rias took advantage of being alone with Issei at home a month ago, his hex life had become normal. Although he was surprised that Asia and Arena were insatiable, you know what they say. The quietest ones are often the most active in bed. Issei stopped being a total pervert and gave his magazines to his 2 friends. After all, he no longer needed his hands to relieve his pent-up frustration. Thanks to Rossweisse's help, Issei has started to improve his grades, and his sudden change of heart also helped him lose the title of the perverted beast. He continued hosting his show, Op-Eye Dragon, which, after winning the World Cup, became the #1 most watched program in the entire supernatural world, with Levi Tan's show coming in second. This also helped him get closer to Serapho, as they had been dating for a week. Yusaka and Kun visited him frequently, as Yusaka was very close to him and Kun was doing her usual thing. He was also looking after Office and Lilith, since the 2 lawless were now living with him, and Elmahil decided to live at his house because she wanted to learn how to be a good maid for Issei. The thing is, Issei was now being hugged on the left by Rias, who had a big smile on her face, and on the right by a cute Asia who was sleeping peacefully with a cute smile. The others had their places, like Zenobia who was Issei's pillow since she put his head in her breasts. How she did it I don't know, since she sleeps in a strange way, each one slept holding onto a part of Issei. It was Saturday, they didn't have class, except that Zenobia had to attend the academy for council matters, and well she regrets accepting to be council president, since it takes up a lot of time with Issei sometimes. Issei was beginning to wake up and what he saw brought a smile to his face. Ah, who would have thought I'd be like this, and with them? I'm so lucky, Issei said to himself, looking at the girls and feeling Zenobia hug his head. This brought a smile to his face. Although I like being like this, I have to wake her up since she's always late for the council meetings, Issei said, skillfully removing his left hand from between Ria's breasts to caress Zenobia's face. Zenobia, you have to wake up since you have to go to the council, Issei said, stroking her cheek, which made her groan. Just 5 more minutes she said, hugging Issei's head a little tighter. As much as I'd like to continue like this, we can't because I don't want you to become irresponsible, Zenobia. Come on, get up. I promise we'll spend some time together later, Issei said, and she reluctantly woke up. Fine Ice, only because you tell me to, she said, getting up from her seat, not without first kissing Issei. But let it be clear that we will have that moment together and we will make the most of it, I see she said, winking at Issei, while smiling sensually, and Issei smiled ironically. Yes, don't worry, Issei said, smiling. Zenobia went to take a shower while giving Issei a hip wiggle. Ah, this girl wants to drain me dry, Issei said. Who wants to leave you dry, Ice? Asked a voice from his left, none other than his Red Queen Rias Gremory, who smiled beautifully as she looked at him. Good morning, love, she said, kissing Issei, who returned the kiss of his girlfriend-fiancé. Good morning Rias, how did my beautiful girlfriend sleep? Issei asked, smiling, and she, without losing her smile, replied. But as always, darling, since I'm with you, Rias said, resting her head on her boyfriend. At that moment, one by one, all of Issei's girls woke up, with Akeno being the first. Seeing that the girls had made space on top of Issei, she decided to kiss him while climbing on top of him. Ifufufufu, good morning Anada said the black-haired girl kissing Issei, and he reciprocated. Good morning, Akeno, Issei said. Ai-san, good morning, Asia said, shyly kissing Issei. Good morning Ai-senpai, said Kaneko, still with her Nekomata features, as she kissed Issei. Naya good morning, Ice Naya greeted Kaneko's sensual older sister, Kuroka, kissing Issei. Darling, good morning, said Irina, also kissing Issei. Good morning, Ice, Rossweisse said, kissing the brunette just like the others. Good morning too, girls, Issei said, smiling. They all got out of bed and decided to take a bath together, why not? After all, they already know each other thoroughly, if you know what I mean. Time skip. Room. Everyone was already downstairs. Zenobia was going to be accompanied by Asia and Irina. They were eating the breakfast made by Asia and Rias when the other tenants of the house entered. Good morning, girls, I-san, said Elmhild, walking with a smiling expression and sitting down next to Kaneko. Good morning, greeted two almost identical voices as they floated into the kitchen. It was Office and Lilith to approach Issei and both sit on his lap. Hello, Ice, hello, said, both lawless being petted by Issei. Good morning, Elmhild, Office and Lilith, Issei said. They ate and then set about doing their work. We're leaving, said Zenobia, followed by Asia and Irina. Have a good trip, they all said, already seated in the room. See you later, Irina said. See you later, Asia said. So the trio from the church left for the academy while chatting about their tastes. At the Haidu residence, Issei put on a movie while Kaneko sat in her usual place and the lawless were on his shoulders, Rias to his left and Akeno to his right, Kuroka sitting on the floor between his feet, Elmhild next to Akeno and Rossweisse next to Rias. They were watching the movie peacefully when Issei's phone started ringing, which surprised him, although he thought it was Razor and his stuff. I don't think I should have given him my number, Issei thought, but he was surprised to see an unknown number. Huh. That's strange, Issei said. What's wrong, love? Rias asked, and they all looked at Issei. An unknown number is calling, I'll answer to find out who it is, Issei said, answering his cell phone. Hello? Issei spoke. Am I speaking with Haidu, Issei? Asked a clearly female and older voice, which surprised Issei. Who's asking about him? Issei asked. An old acquaintance of yours, the woman on the other end of the phone replied. I do, Miss Issei. An old acquaintance. But the only people I met were Momori, Mirai, and wait, could it be? Are you Akemi-san? Issei asked, forgetting that his girlfriends and future partners were nearby. Rias looked at this somewhat jealously but calmed down. She would ask for explanations later. Ice-kun, is that you? Wow, you sound just like a man, haha, said the voice belonging to Akemi. Yes, 5 years to be exact, haha, how have you been? We haven't communicated since you went to Tokyo, said Issei. I'm sorry about that, Ice-kun. Work didn't give me time to contact you, and Akira couldn't either, as her studies kept her busy, she said, and Issei listened. They were a wealthy family after all. I understand, and speaking of Akira, how is she? Issei asked, but the woman sighed, which worried Issei. Akemi-san? Issei asked. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Ice-kun. It's about Akira and something that happened 3 years ago, the woman said, and now Issei was truly worried. What happened to Akira? Issei asked worriedly. His girl saw this, but said nothing. So you know about the A virus, right? The one that only affects girls? Akira asked. Yes, I know him, he became famous a year ago. Wait, don't tell me that, Issei said, then understood what it was all about. Yes, Ice-kun, it's what you think. Akira has the A virus, but something different happened. She had a kind of plan. Apparently, she knew what they wanted with the girls infected with the virus and where they were sending them. But to go into detail, I need to see you and explain the situation better, the woman explained. Okay, but before anything else, and I know it'll sound silly to ask at this point, but who gave you my number? Issei asked. Well, a man named Azazel told me he knew you, why Ice-kun? She asked, and Issei just got angry. And nothing, Akemi-san, I do know that person unfortunately, Issei whispered, making Akemi look surprised. But it's okay, you tell me when and we'll meet to talk about it, Issei said, and Akemi told him she would send him an email with the address. Okay, we'll meet there in a week, is that alright? Issei asked. Of course, Ice-kun, see you later. It was nice talking to you again, Akemi said happily. Likewise, take care, see you later, Issei said and hung up the phone. He looked at the girls and sighed. You want to know who it was, right? He asked, and they nodded. Issei began telling them about his acquaintances before delving into the supernatural. Akemi and Akira Hiragi, mother and daughter respectively, were wealthy and beautiful. They had lived in Kuo until 5 years prior. Despite being older than Issei, Akira treated him well. He admitted that he had fallen in love with both women, but being young, he dismissed it as just a childhood crush. The girls were jealous but let it go. Then he recounted the phone call, which surprised them since they had thought the A virus was just a simple human virus like any other. What do you think Ice wants to talk to you about? Rias asked. I don't know, but I think it will be something related to what happened with Akira, Issei said. And who gave out your number, Naya? Kuroka asked. Who comes to mind? Issei asked. Azazel, they all said, and Issei just laughed at that. So we have a week off, Ice, what will you do with it? Rias asked, eager for him to invite her out as they always do. Well, spending time with you all, said Issei, who was hugged by the girls. That includes you, Almahild, Issei said, and the vampire smiled, blushing at that. And so Issei decided to spend the rest of the day with the girls. They received a visit from Serafo, who had a few hours free, and Issei indulged her in whatever she wanted until he had to leave for work. Issei will enjoy his week with the girls and tell Azazel about it so he can help him if the situation requires a lot of help without knowing that this will lead him to reunite with old friends, meet new people, and also meet beautiful girls who transform into weapons, but that's for another time. End of prologue. Rectified Harem. This is the Harem, the focus will be on the Valkyrie Drive girls. I'll just say that the DxD girls fell in love with Issei because he decided to be serious about their relationship. Another point is that Momori met Issei because they studied together in middle school, in their first year to be precise. He met Mirai one day when he saw her wandering the streets of Tokyo, where Issei was on vacation, and decided to stay in the city for a week, which he spent with the blonde girl. Later, I'll upload the other harem, which will be short, with 4 to 6 girls maximum. I'll see which ones would be suitable as weapons for Issei, although I already have one in mind, and she appears in Soul Eater. DxD. 1 Rias Gremory. 2 Akeno Himejima. 3 Asia Argento. 4 Kaneko Taujo. 5 Zenobia Quarta. 6 Arena Shido. 7 Rossweisse. 8 Kuroka. 9 Elmahild Karnstein. 10 Ravel Phoenix. 11 Serafo Leviathan Citri. 12 Lefay Pendragon. Valkyrie Drive Mermaid. This will be the main focus. 13 Tokenum Momori. 14 Shikishima Mirai, she's 15, believe it or not even I was like WTF. 15 Hiragi Akira. They are both the same person. 16 Charlotte Scherzen. 17 Shigeru Kasumi. 18 Kazami Torino. 19 Hasumi Rain. 20 Lady J. 21 Momoka Sagara. 22 Hibiki Kenjo. 23 Aomi Yasato. 24 Momoko Kazuki. 25 D5. 26 E9. 27 Name Minimum. 28 No Oya. 29 Kabami Sajima. 30 Uchiha Shirasu. Chapter 1 Welcome to Mermaid and Old Acquaintances. Chapter 1. Tokyo. 1 week later. Hiragi residence. A week had passed since Issei received Akemi's call, inviting him to her house to discuss the matter of the phone call. During that week, he spent time with the girls, taking them on various dates in the underworld and around the world. Issei also noticed that all his dates ended in a room with the girl involved in the date. Between classes and dates, along with an explanation of why Azazel gave out his number so casually, without his consent, Issei asked for permission to stop attending the academy for 3 months, using the excuse that he was visiting a relative on the other side of the world. It was good that Sona was helping him with that, even though he already owed her a big favor for that last part. Issei called Akemi, confirming that he would be going to Tokyo. Now, Issei stood before a large and opulent mansion located in the upper part of the city. Issei was greeted by a butler who led him to where the elderly woman was. After 6 minutes, the butler led Issei to where the woman was sitting, a kiosk in the beautiful garden. There, enjoying tea, was the lovely red-haired woman, Akemi Hiragi, the owner of the property. When she saw Issei, she smiled and stood up to greet him. "Wow, Ice-kun, you've really grown up and become quite handsome," said the woman, approaching to hug Issei, who returned the hug. "Welcome to my home, I'm glad to see you again," said Akemi, smiling. "Likewise Akemi-san, I can say the same about you," Issei said, pulling away from the hug to admire the beautiful woman. "You're still as beautiful as before." "No, I'm lying, I'd say you're even more beautiful," Issei said, and she smiled at this. "Stop saying things like that, you're making me blush," the woman said. Then she invited him to sit at the table so they could discuss the matter more comfortably. "Well, Akemi-san, it's good to see you and all, but I'm also here about Akira. Please tell me, what happened to her?" Issei asked seriously. Akemi looked at him, then sighed and looked sad. "Well, how do I explain this? 3 years ago, Akira and I were investigating something related to the A virus. We discovered some things the government is hiding from the public," the woman began, explaining that the government wasn't saying anything about what happened to those infected, or in this case, those infected with the A virus. What mother and daughter discovered was that the affected women were being sent against their will to a place. This place turned out to be an island, I'd say group of islands, but the Siren and Bikuni series are games now, and unfortunately, I won't be able to play them. I still think that wasn't on any maps. This island served as a concentration camp where the girls ended up and no one knew what happened there. So, Akira proposed to her mother that she go there undercover as a man to make it seem like she was the first man with the A virus. Although she disagreed, in the end, her daughter convinced her. She created an artificial extraterrestrial weapon named Sri to maintain her appearance and thus take the title of governor of Walter on Mermaid Island. I know it didn't happen that way, but it's for to give her something more important than just being forced and sent as an undercover woman, and that's what happened, Ice-kun. Since then, I haven't heard from my daughter. Sometimes I regret sending Akira there, the woman said, her voice breaking with emotion. Issei stood up and hugged her, letting her cry a little on his shoulder. Thank you, Ice-kun. I needed this, Akemi said gratefully, still in Issei's embrace. You're welcome, but I imagine you called me for something. I don't think it's just to explain your predicament, right? Issei asked, looking the woman in the eyes. It wasn't just for that, the woman said, now composed. She summoned one of her servants, who brought a small black briefcase, set it down, and left. Akira placed the briefcase in front of Issei, who looked at it. The scientists who work for me managed to obtain a sample of the A virus. It's in that briefcase, Akemi said, and Issei opened the briefcase, finding the following. A vaccine gun and a container of a blue liquid that was the A virus. You're showing me this so I can get it, right? Issei asked, turning his gaze from the contents of the briefcase to Akemi, who nodded guiltily. I'm asking this favor of you more than anyone else, since Akira and I trust you completely. Besides, that man Azazel told us you could help us with our problem, so please, Ice-kun, I know I shouldn't ask you for something so dangerous, but please, help Akira and me with this, the woman pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. She didn't want to ask Issei for something like this, much less for him to take something that could harm him. Little did she know, though, that Issei had had worse things in his bloodstream, and this job would be a walk in the park for him. It wasn't about fighting mad gods or demented fallen angels, a horde of evil dragons, or a seven-headed beast with a strange body that wants to destroy the world. Issei saw her and smiled at her. Don't worry, Akemi-san, I'll help you and Akira. I won't abandon you. After all, you were very kind to me when I was little, and Akemi was my second friend. So you can rest assured that no matter what, I'll help Akira get out of there and get those girls off that island, Issei said, taking the sample of the A virus and inserting it into the gun. Drake, do you think you can help me properly integrate the virus? Issei asked. Please, that will be simple, partner, so rest assured that this strange virus will be in you without affecting your blood system much, Drake said. Issei looked at the gun and then at Akemi, who looked worried. Issei smiled at her. Don't worry, after all, Azazel-sensei is right, you can trust me, Issei said, then injected the sample of the A virus into his body. Issei felt something strange coursing through his bloodstream, but nothing dangerous like the time Samuel's poison slowly killed him. After a few seconds, he felt nothing, meaning Drake had done his job. How are you feeling, Ice-kun? Akemi asked with concern. Issei looked at her and smiled. Well, I feel great, Issei replied. Akemi looked at him and decided to do something. Perhaps the virus is already active. To be sure, I need to bring someone, the woman said, telling a maid who had been serving them to bring her. Issei found this odd but let her. After all, she knew what she was doing. About 6 minutes passed without either of them speaking. Akemi looked at Issei, still worried, and Issei stared at the empty vial containing the A virus sample. After waiting, they heard footsteps approaching. Issei looked to see where the footsteps were coming from, and when he discovered who they belonged to, he was somewhat surprised. A beautiful blonde with blue eyes, glasses, a long-sleeved burgundy uniform with white on the shoulders and chest, and brown boots. The blonde wasn't Japanese. It was obvious from a mile away. She had a serious expression that softened slightly when she saw Issei. They stared at each other, their eyes locked, as if something compelled them to keep looking. I present to you Satellaizer L. Bridget Ice-kun, she is the daughter of a friend of mine, she comes from England, and she carries the A virus like you, Akemi introduced the blonde, who was surprised to hear that Issei had the A virus. Akemi-san, how come he has the A virus? Aren't only women supposed to be able to get it? Satellaizer asked, still not believing what the woman said. First, let me introduce you. This is Haidu Issei, a boy I met 5 years ago. You could say he's Akira's and my best friend. As for why he has the virus, I gave him a sample of the A virus that my scientists obtained, and he assimilated it well. Now he can be a liberator, Akemi said, and Satellaizer was utterly astonished. But Issei still didn't understand anything, especially what a liberator was. Akemi-san, please forgive my ignorance, although I believe it is more than justified, but what is this liberator thing? Issei asked, and both women looked at him. Well, Ice-kun, the A virus affects a woman's body in 2 ways. One is when a woman becomes an exter, which is when a woman reaches a certain level of arousal and takes the form of a weapon. But for that, there's the next step, which is the liberator, who activates the weapon, who makes the affected person become a weapon, Akemi explained. Issei understood more or less what it was all about, but Satellaizer seemed to be blushing, and he didn't know why. So that means if I find an exter now and make her excited. It can take the form of a weapon. Wow, if it were the me I used to be, I'd be way too excited, but now with what's happened in my life, well I'm just a little excited, Issei said, remembering the times girls locked him in the room until they were both satisfied, although sometimes they spent hours or even half a day or a day and a half inside Issei's room, compared to just arousing a girl, it was nothing. Wow, I thought you'd be a little nervous or even excited, I mean, it's not every day you get the chance to touch girls, Akemi said, smiling somewhat mockingly. Sadlizer remained silent and blushed. To be honest, it does excite me a little, but not like before when I would have jumped for joy over this. But I mean, I don't dislike it. I'm a guy, after all, and I like women a lot, Issei said casually. Akemi chuckled at that and then looked at Sadlizer. Well, the reason I brought Sadlizer here is because I want to know if you can make her transform. She's an exter, and since you're a liberator, in theory she should react to you, so you could both go to Mermaid together, Akemi said. Sadlizer blushed like a Christmas light bulb, and Issei looked at her. You don't have to do it, after all we barely know each other, and I don't want to force you into something you don't want to do, Issei said, and Sadlizer just shook her head, blushing. And no, it's okay, but please be gentle, the blonde said sheepishly. Issei blushed, finding her incredibly cute. He swallowed hard, still nervous about what might happen. Oh okay, Issei said, now standing in front of the blonde. Here I go, he said, embracing her and beginning. Knowing how to excite her, he began caressing her body in their embrace, then gently caressed one of her breasts with his left hand. Ah, Sadlizer moaned with pleasure. Issei saw this and lowered his left hand until it was on the blonde's rear. She moaned as she felt Issei caress her buttocks. Issei continued caressing the blonde, moving his hands gently to achieve his goal. After a while, Issei decided to kiss the blonde's neck and as if she were Rias, the girl moaned louder, and it happened. The blonde began to glow with a golden light. Akemi, even though this was just a test, liked what she saw, since it seemed Issei was an expert at arousing girls, experience thanks to his girlfriends, but she stopped thinking about it when she saw Sadlizer begin to glow. In Issei's hands, a kind of large sword and 3 points that shone in aqua green. Wow, I'm impressed, said Issei, admiring the weapon, which was light but sharp and dangerous. Wow, their compatibility was high, Akemi said, approaching to admire the weapon better. Being closer, she saw the weapon in great detail. You surprised me, Ice-kun. You were able to change Sadlizer into this weapon, Akemi said, watching Issei, who, upon throwing the weapon into the air, saw it revert to Sadlizer. He then carried it bridal style, making the blonde blush. Well, it seems we're partners, Sadlizer. I hope we get along from now on, Issei said, smiling and still holding Sadlizer in his arms. The blonde smiled and nodded at what Issei said. Likewise, Issei, said Sadlizer. Call me Ice, after all we'll be working together, Issei requested. Only if you call me Stella, Sadlizer requested. Okay, Stella-chan, Issei said. Akemi smiled at this. Alright, it's time to start the mission, Akemi said, and Issei, leaving Sadlizer on the ground, both nodded. Akemi then explained her plan and how they would be sent. The plan to steal Mermaid was underway. Time skip. The next day. Somewhere in Japan. In an unspecified scene near Japan, 2 black metal tubes could be seen, each with a propulsion system directing it in a specific direction. Inside were Issei and Sadlizer. Both had been placed in capsules that would send them by sea to Mermaid. They had been inside for an hour. In the distance, a tropical island could be seen. This island was Mermaid Island, where the girls infected with the A virus were being held. Issei waited until they arrived on the island, but it was boring being in capsule form with nothing to do. Damn, how boring, Issei thought. Don't complain, you'll soon be on an island full of girls, mate, Drake said. You're right, I just hope Rias and the others don't get mad if I bring a girl with me, Issei said, then smiled. I hope everything goes well, he said as suddenly the capsule he was in crashed into a barrier. Finally, Issei said as he was ejected from the capsule. Issei shot off towards the island's beach. He quickly regained his balance in midair and landed on his feet. He then saw the capsule carrying Sadlizer crash, sending her flying towards him. Issei caught her before she hit the ground, holding her in a bridal embrace that made the blonde blush. Are you okay? Issei asked. Yes, the blonde replied, blushing. That's great, Issei said, smiling, and she blushed even more. Hey, could you put me down, please? She asked, and Issei helped her down. Thank you, the blonde replied. Then the pair gazed at the beautiful beach. Wow, this is a beautiful beach, said Issei, but he saw something that caught his attention. It seems we're not the only ones who will be arriving on the island, said Issei, watching a capsule approach. Why do you say that, Ice? Sadlizer asked, and Issei pointed to where the capsule was coming from. Wow, that is interesting, the blonde said. You can say that again, Issei said. Just like before, the arriving capsule crashed into the barrier surrounding the island, preventing anyone from escaping. A shadow was ejected from the capsule and flew a few meters to the left of the boys. Issei moved ahead, and as it approached, he could make out the falling female figure. He caught her before she hit the sand and hurt herself. "Wow, this girl seems familiar," Issei said, holding the girl in his arms. She had wine red hair, wore a pink jacket, a female physical education uniform from a Tokyo academy, and pink and white shoes. This girl reminded him of someone. "Sorry for not having an image, but there isn't one I think." "Why does she remind you of someone, Ice?" Sadalizer asked, seeing Issei still holding the girl in his arms. "Well, she actually reminds me of someone I knew," Issei said, remembering a friend he had in middle school. The girl began to wake up and slowly opened her eyes and saw Issei. "Hi, are you okay?" Issei asked. The girl didn't answer, she looked Issei straight in the eyes and spoke after a few minutes. "Ice-kun?" the repeat asked. "Memori's Pav. I don't know why all this happened. First, when I was little, they detected an irregularity in me. My mother was crying and I didn't understand. I wanted to tell her that everything was fine. After that, I lived more or less peacefully. Then, in the middle of physical education class, some men in black took me out of the place. I don't know how, but now I'm being held in the arms of the only person who was my friend before I lived in Tokyo, Ice-kun." "Ice-kun?" I asked him. He looked at me strangely. "It's me, Memori, Tokenim Memori. We went to high school together," I said. He seemed to react to that and smiled at me. I blushed because I used to like him and I think that feeling hasn't left me. "Memori-chan. Wow, you've changed so much these past 2 years that I didn't even recognize you, haha," Ice-kun said with an awkward smile, until I realized something. He was carrying me like a princess. I blushed deeply and he noticed and put me down. "Sorry, haha, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said apologetically. "And no worries about it," I said, blushing, and looked behind him at a blonde girl. She was beautiful. Who is she?" I asked, looking at the blonde. "Oh, this is Sadalizer L. Bridget, she's my partner," Ice-kun introduced the Sadalizer girl. But just as I was about to introduce myself, I remembered something important. I looked around worriedly, finding only a beach, sand, and a dense jungle. I didn't know where we were. "Huh? Ice-kun, where are we? What is this place? Why are we here?" I asked nervously, wanting to know where we were. Ice-kun calmed me down by stroking my head. "We're on an island, that's all I can say, but don't worry Memori-chan, Stella-chan and I will take care of you, so don't worry," Ice-kun told me, with Sadalizer-san nodding behind him. "Normal Pav." The trio waited a moment for Memori to calm down while the two girls introduced themselves. They were being monitored without their knowledge. In a control room, a group of girls were looking at a map showing where Issei, Sadalizer, and Memori were. On the map, they were represented by 3 yellow dots. "The unknown ones have started to move," one of the girls said, alerting them to the trio's actions. "Remember, they don't know Issei is a boy, hence the unknown ones. The most recent one just regained consciousness," the girl told her superior, a girl with short dull purple hair, red-framed glasses, wearing a white military uniform with a short ruffled mid-thigh skirt, dark stockings, and white boots, with a serious demeanor reminiscent of a certain Citri. "Put her to the test, send in the nearest female knights," the girl ordered, and those present obeyed. They proceeded to search for anyone near Issei and his companion's position, finding 2 yellow dots several meters away. "Miyasato and Kazuki are in the area," one of the girls informed her superior, who just kept his gaze lowered with some frustration upon hearing those names. "Those two are definitely wasting their time," the girl said upon learning who they were. 1 meter away from Issei and company. 2 girls were relaxing on the beach in beach chairs under an umbrella. A screen appeared on a device belonging to one of them, displaying a message from one of the girls informing them about her work. "Miyasato-san and Kazuki-san, do you copy me?" the girl asked them both. "Miyasato isn't here," said a slim, but still attractive brunette wearing a flattering blue bikini. She was trying to play dumb and avoid her chores. "Kazuki isn't here either," said the other, who had a more voluptuous body, light brown hair, and was wearing a yellow bikini. "I can see them," Sona too said seriously to the girls, who quickly became frightened upon hearing their superior's voice. "Captain Kasumi?" they both said, frightened. "See, we can explain. It's actually a funny story," Miyasato said, trying to excuse herself, but Kasumi silenced her. "I'm not interested, head to point 30 and try the new strangers," Kasumi ordered both of them, who complied. "But Issei and company. So some men in black brought you here, what a problem," Issei said as they walked along the beach. Memori nodded in agreement with Issei's statement. "And how did you get here?" Memori asked, without her pink jacket. Her t-shirt had the word virgin on it. "No, it read Tokenim, she explained that a while ago." "Well, it's a long story," Sadalizer said. Leaving that aside, Issei said, trying to change the subject, which works since Momori looked at him. Don't you think there might be, I don't know, people passing through that area? Issei asked, sensing several energies coming from the direction of the jungle. Sadlizer looked understanding, but Momori. But it's probably full of insects, there's no way a little city girl like me could stand that. Momori said, trembling. Issei smiled at that. He always liked this girl for things like that. Sadlizer smiled amusedly at the redeed. She was funny. Yes, we'll see how to keep the insects away, don't worry Momori-chan, Issei said, calming the redeed. Hey, you guys. A female voice called to the trio. Issei, Sadlizer and Momori turned to see who it was, finding Miyasato and Kazuki on the large rock in front of them. How's everything going? Wait, what's a man doing here? Miyasato greeted, noticing Issei and asking why he was there. What, you've never seen a guy walking around peacefully with his friends? Issei asked jokingly, while Sadlizer smiled amusedly, but Momori was more focused on finding out what was going on. No, there are no other men here besides the governor, said Kazuki. Issei and Sadlizer already knew who he was, but they pretended not to know. Ah, I see, well what are two beautiful girls doing here, are you the welcoming committee? Issei asked, blushing, since they never expected to be praised by a boy. Well Miyasato said, blushing. Well, you see she said, just like her partner Kazuki. That's right, buddy, take advantage of their inexperience talking to men and seduce them, haha, Drake said. Issei smiled but ignored it. Momori was pleased to know she could get information about why he was there and decided to approach the two girls who were still blushing as they stared at Issei. Thank goodness. Momori exclaimed happily, approaching the two girls and leaving her pink jacket on the sand. Do you know where we are? Momori asked Miyasato and Kazuki, who snapped out of their daze and decided to go down to Momori. Would you mind lending me a phone? The redeed asked politely, and the two girls burst into laughter upon reading the inscription on Momori's shirt. Phew, hahaha. They both laughed, pointing at Momori's chest. Issei and Sadlizer knew why they were laughing, but they let them. They weren't doing anything wrong, since even they had chuckled a little when they first read it. What's going on? Momori asked uncomfortably, seeing the duo laughing in her face, and she still didn't understand why. It says virgin on your shirt. Miyasato said, laughing and pointing at Momori, who finally understood what they were laughing about. There's honesty, and then there's that. Miyasato said, still laughing, as was Kazuki. All the while, Momori, embarrassed, fell to her knees in the sand. Are you trying to make a statement or something? Kazuki asked, laughing. And no, that's not it. It doesn't say virgin. It's my last name, it's pronounced Tokenim. Momori said to both of them, who stopped laughing. So you're not a virgin, huh? Miyasato said, stopping her laughter. It's hard to say when you look so innocent, Kazuki said. Well, they weren't wrong about that, I am a virgin, but my name is Tokenim. Momori said. Okay, enough is enough, right? Stop laughing at Momori-chan and answer the question from earlier, said Issei, approaching Momori to help her up from her seat and then looking at both girls who blushed but decided to ask. So, who are you, said Miyasato, wanting to know Issei and Sadlizer's names. Issei, hi do Issei and the cute blonde over there is Sadlizer L. Bridget, my partner Issei introduced them both, and the duo nodded. So, Virgin Tokenim, Issei and Bridget, what are you, Liberator Miyasato asked. Borexter? Kazuki asked, much to Momori's confusion. Libex what are they talking about, Ice-kun? Momori asked her friend, who looked at her. It's a bit complicated to say, Momori-chan, but to answer your question, girl he said to Momori, then looked at Miyasato, Stella is my exter, and I'm her liberator, Issei said, pulling Sadlizer into a hug that made her blush, but the blonde smiled. This surprised Miyasato and Kazuki, as they hadn't expected the two to be a couple. Wow, that was unexpected, to be honest, Miyasato said, but then he looked at Momori. But I'd better show you what we were talking about, Miyasato said, stepping behind Kazuki. Momori was surprised by this, but blushed when she saw Miyasato squeeze Kazuki's large right breast. Moaned Kazuki as she was touched on her chest. Huh? Momori was surprised by that. Sadlizer blushed a little since Issei was still hugging her, but she let go and looked to see what would happen. I have to be careful although I'll enjoy watching that a lot haha Issei thought and looked closely at what would happen. Miyasato caressed Kazuki's right breast and left thigh, gently eliciting pleasurable moans from the brunette, who let her partner do as she pleased. Momori covered her face as she watched the two girls doing their thing between her fingers. They're perverts. Momori thought, ashamed of what they were both doing. Miyasato continued caressing Kazuki's chest, and now with his left hand he caressed her intimate area, further exciting the busty woman. They're watching you, he whispered in her ear as he touched her. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Kazuki moaned with pleasure as she was touched in specific places. More, hurry up and do it. Kazuki begged as Miyasato touched her more and more until it happened. She let out a final moan and glowed in a green light that blinded Satellaizer and Momori until she transformed into her weapon form. Now do you understand, virgin? Miyasato asked, showing off his strange weapon. And nothing at all. Momori said, sounding a little scared. I have no idea what's going on. The Redeed denied. You still haven't woken up, huh? Miyasato asked, placing the weapon on his right shoulder. Wake up? Momori asked, confused. Damn it, I have to act now, Stella, it's time, Issei thought, whispering the last part to Satellaizer, who nodded. While the two girls were talking, Issei began his work. He began to caress Satellaizer's breasts. The blonde stifled a moan. Issei moved his left hand up and down beneath her skirt, while with his right he caressed and squeezed her breasts, playing with them, caressing and squeezing them, repeating the process. He slipped his left hand higher up Satellaizer's long skirt until he felt her panties. Satellaizer stifled another, louder moan that threatened to escape when she felt Issei's fingers caress her intimately through her white panties. Issei gently moved his index and ring fingers up and down over Satellaizer's wetness, while his right hand was already beneath her dress, feeling her bare breasts. He caressed them delicately, playing with her erect nipples. The blonde felt like she was in heaven. Issei knew what he was doing and he liked it very much. She felt very wet, and her stimulated nipples made her feel a wave of pleasure washed over the blonde. She was so horny, she was hot, and Issei moved his fingers faster and occasionally plunged them a little into Satellaizer's cleft. The girl couldn't take it anymore and hugged Issei's neck. While she was facing away from the brunette, she pressed her butt against Issei's crotch. 6 happened. Satellaizer moaned in ecstasy as she glowed. Miyasato and Momori were surprised to see this, especially Miyasato, who hadn't expected Issei to act so quickly. After the light faded, Issei could be seen wielding the sword Satellaizer had transformed into earlier. Well, I don't mean to bother you, but I would ask you to stay away from Momori-chan, please, said Issei, who had quickly positioned himself between the two girls, further astonishing them both. Observation room. Shigeru Kasumi, the third in command at Walter, was watching the trio's monitoring on the beach, surprised to see two extras there, when another unknown person has appeared on the radar. Exclaimed one of the local girls, pointing at the monitor where another yellow dot appeared on the radar. Another one? That makes 4 in a single day, this is too unusual, Shigeru said in surprise. Back to the beach. The collision at the barrier and water originated behind Issei and to the right of Miyasato and Momori. But what, Miyasato asked, looking at the place. Is that it? Momori finished, just like Miyasato, looking at the place. Another one arrives, how interesting, Issei observed. In the distance, another black capsule appeared at high speed underwater, hurtling towards the island. The barrier surrounding it activated in anticipation of the impact. A propulsion system fired from the capsule, and it crashed powerfully into the barrier, making it visible from all around the island. The force of the impact caused the capsule to begin to give way and shatter. The collision released a girl who emerged towards the trio. The girl was a dull blonde and looked at the trio, who looked back at her, but her gaze fell on two people. The first was Momori, whom she looked at intently, but when she glanced away, she saw someone she had met 2 years prior. This brought a small smile to her face, but she grew serious upon seeing Miyasato. The blonde, in mid-flight, began to perform acrobatic maneuvers to head towards Issei and Momori. When she was close, Issei pulled Momori towards the blushing Redeed to give the blonde room to land, and as a reward thanks to his enhanced vision, Issei saw the blonde's panties. Black, wow, the brunette thought, and Drake in the boosted form shook his head at his partner's crazy ideas. When Issei saw the blonde stand up, she glanced over his shoulder at him and Momori, whom he was still holding with his right arm while his left hand held the sword. For some strange reason, he felt like he'd seen that girl before. The blonde smiled slightly at him, and Issei just watched her. That's weird, Issei thought, then looked at Momori, who was looking at the blonde. Are you alright, Momori-chan? Issei asked. Momori looked at him and blushed, still holding him around the waist, but nodded. That's good, Issei said, releasing Momori from his grip, much to her disappointment. What the hell? Did you activate drive? Miyasato asked, looking shocked at the blonde who held out her arms to block her path. Huh? What are you doing? Are you two friends? She asked, seeing that the blonde wasn't moving at all, standing in front of Issei. Well, Issei said, approaching the blonde until he was standing next to her. I can't exactly say that, but I have a strange feeling I know you, Issei declared, resting his weapon on his left shoulder as he looked at the blonde, who looked at him. Tell me, do I know you from somewhere? You remind me of someone I knew a long time ago, Issei said, explaining that having had several problems in the last year had made him forget people's faces. The blonde looked at him and nodded. I'm Mirai Ice, said the now-known Mirai to the chestnut-haired man who thought for a moment before remembering her. Damn, it's true. I spent a week hanging out with you when I visited Tokyo with my family, Shikishima Mirai-chan. Issei exclaimed, as if she were the discovery of the year. Sorry for forgetting you, but I've had so many problems this year, so I forget a lot of things, Issei apologized, and the blonde shook her head with a small smile. Issei smiled at her. That's good. Now, back to what we were talking about earlier, Issei said, looking at Miyasato and her weapon. I don't want to hurt you or your partner. I don't fight girls much, and it's not because they aren't strong, but because when they're not bothering me about killing me and stuff, I like to avoid hurting a girl, especially if they're beautiful like you too, Issei said, trying to avoid knocking them both out. This made Miyasato blush, who faltered slightly while holding her weapon, but she calmed down and pointed it at Issei, who sighed in annoyance. Ah, just so you know, I warned you. If you don't hold a grudge, I'd like to meet you and your friend. You both seem like nice girls, but for now, Issei said, making Miyasato blush even more. Issei got into a fighting stance, holding his sword in front of him. I hope you can last a round, Issei said seriously. Shut up, I don't care what you say, just show me what you've got. Miyasato said, firing her weapon at Issei. Mirai quickly went to shield Momori from the blasts, but what? Miyasato exclaimed as she watched Issei literally split the bullets in half and walk toward her. That's all you've got. You won't beat me with so little, Issei said seriously. You'll see, take this. Miyasato said angrily, starting to fire bursts of bullets at Issei. Mirai dodged several bullets with Momori in her arms, and Issei, you've got to be kidding me, this is impossible. Miyasato said incredulously, watching Issei skillfully dodge the bullets being fired at him. Well, that was happening with Issei and Miyasato, with Momori and Mirai. Momori called to the blonde. Mirai looked at her. You're hurting me, she said, seeing that Mirai was squeezing her chest. Mirai saw where it said and unconsciously squeezed Momori's chest as well. Mirai pulled away, blushing, and raised her hands. Damn it, if I can't finish you off like this, I'll have to resort to drastic measures, Miyasato said, switching his weapon to another firing mode. He pointed it at Issei, revealing the weapon's thick barrel. Take this. He shouted, launching a small projectile. Ah, don't think you'll beat me like that, Issei said to avoid the projectile, forgetting something. Damn it, Momori-chan and Mirai-chan. Issei said, seeing an explosion form where the girls were as a pink light emerged from the dust cloud. Ah, what a relief, Issei said, now knowing what happened. Observation room. On a screen that Shigeru was watching, another new active subject was observed, which left the girl more than surprised. Second Liberator signal detected along with another extra signal too. One of the girls warned. Another simultaneous awakening. Shigeru said, surprised. Drive detected. Another girl announced, further shocking Shigeru. Another match. That makes two, but they haven't even gone through synchronization yet. Shigeru said, looking at the monitor. Back with the boys. Issei watched as the dust cloud slowly began to disperse in the shape of a tornado, a green light emanating from it. Miyasato looked at this with intrigue. What's happening? The girl wondered. Do you know what's going on? She asked Issei, who looked at her again. I have a hunch, but I'd better finish what I started, Issei said, disappearing from Miyasato's sight, who was left in shock. But what? He asked, not seeing Issei anywhere, while the dust devil was still spinning, when Miyasato was called. Get out of there immediately. Shigeru's voice ordered. Captain? Miyasato asked. Now. Shigeru ordered. That won't be necessary, Issei said, appearing behind Miyasato and leaving the girl in shock. The dust settled, revealing Mirai holding a sword. Wow, now Momori-chan has become a weapon, but putting that aside, Issei said, looking at Miyasato, no hard feelings. Issei asked, and Miyasato gave him a strange look. Why she didn't finish because Issei struck her hard on the back of the neck, knocking her unconscious. Sad Liza reverted to her normal form, still blushing as she looked at Issei. Issei caught Miyasato before she fell and held Kazuki in her weapon form. Issei looked at Kazuki and let her return to normal. Don't be mad at me, but I told you not to bother me. But don't worry, it's okay, Issei said, gently placing Miyasato on the ground. Kazuki looked at him and nodded. Here she is. I hope someone comes to pick you up, girls, and I hope I can talk to you in a calmer setting. Like I told her, I'm telling you too, I like you guys, Issei said, and a blushing Kazuki nodded. I hope so too, Kazuki said, only to be interrupted by Issei. Ice-san or Ice-kun, however you see fit, after all we'll be seeing each other soon, said Issei, and the girl answered. Okay, Ice-san, you can call me Momoko. This is Aoi. These are our names, and thank you for not finishing us off, Momoko said to Issei, who stroked her head. He always did that with the girls. Rias, Kaneko, and Kuroka enjoyed having their heads stroked by Issei. You're welcome, Momoko-chan. Well, I'll leave you now. Please apologize to Aoi-chan for me, okay? Issei said, and a blushing Momoko nodded. Issei went over to Mirai, who was holding the sword and examining it closely. What a piece of sword you have there, Mirai-chan. It seems Momori-chan was an extra after all, Issei said, gently touching the edge of Momori's sword. Mirai looked at Issei, and he smiled at her. Let's get out of here, or they'll come to see what happened, Issei said, then turned to Satellizer. Thanks for helping, Stella, and I'm sorry if I was too bold, but I needed your help with that, Issei said, and Satellizer shook her head. You're welcome, Ice, after all I ended up liking it, Satellizer said, blushing, as Issei gave her a soft kiss on the lips, making the blonde blush even more. Issei had his right hand on Satellizer's cheek and smiled at her. Thanks anyway, Issei said. Mirai glanced at him and felt a pang of annoyance, but decided to ignore it. Let's go, girls, Issei said. Nodding, both girls followed Issei into the jungle, quickly leaving the area behind, leaving an unconscious Aoi next to a blushing, smiling Momoko, who watched the trio go. Hi to Issei, it seems things will stop being boring with them here, Momoko said. Somewhere on the island. In a room, a beautiful girl with pink hair, violet eyes, and a military uniform from the island, the same color as her eyes along with some golden touches on the shoulders, was looking at someone. Governor, I just received a report, the girl said to the figure behind a desk who was looking out the window of the room. The Information Bureau has discovered 4 unknowns who have successfully awakened. We have a new pair of liberators and extras, the girl reported. It seems they also activated drive right after waking up, the girl said to the person who turned out to be a red-haired boy. How are ours? The boy asked. One was unconscious but out of danger, the other was in perfect condition, only showing fatigue, out of mortal danger, the girl said. Honestly, I blame Kasumi for sending some C-class soldiers, the girl said, trying to shift the blame onto Shigeru. Miss Charlotte, where are the intruders? The boy asked, still looking out the window. This is an island, there's only one place you can go, Charlotte told the boy. All this while Issei, Satellizer who was holding the chestnut-haired boy's hand, and Mirai carrying a sleeping Momori, walked through the jungle looking for a place to go. This was just the beginning for Issei. He still had things to see. He reunited with old friends and unwittingly gained a new girlfriend. What will happen now? Will Issei and the girls be able to uncover what's going on the island? All this and more will be revealed in the next chapter. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2 The Castle and the First Fight. Chapter 2. Mermaid. Jungle. Issei and company continued walking through the jungle when the sleeping beauty, Momori, began to awaken from her previous fainting spell. She moaned as she woke up. Momori began to wake up when she remembered the previous situation. Where am I? She asked disoriented as she slowly opened her eyes. Oh, it's good that you woke up, Momori-chan, Issei said beside her, walking hand in hand with Satellizer. Ice-kun. She said, confused, then saw that the one carrying her was the silent Mirai, who was looking at Issei, or more specifically at the connection between the hands of the brunette and the blonde with glasses. There seemed to be a strange glint in her eyes. She didn't know what to say, so she spoke to Issei instead. Ice-kun, what happened to the scary people? She asked, and Issei didn't know what to say. Well Stella-chan helped me here. She didn't know how to explain that she had turned into a weapon, so she decided to ask her partner for help. Mirai-san helped you, Satellizer said. Momori looked at Mirai. You saved me. Thank you so much, Momori said to the girl, who simply nodded. Well, I ask questions, does anyone know where we are? Momori asked, and everyone shook their heads. Honestly, no, Issei said, but I think if we cross this jungle, we might find something. Satellizer nodded in agreement. I see, Momori said, then looked at Mirai. Sorry, I can walk, can you stop? The girl asked Mirai, who stopped. I don't think it would be a good idea, Tokenum-san, Satellizer said, looking at the ground beneath Mirai. Yes, Momori-chan, it's not a good idea, unless Issei said, but it was too late when Momori noticed a bunch of snakes under Mirai. I take it back. I take it back. Don't put me down, don't put me down. Momori shouted in fear, hugging the silent blonde tightly, who was getting nervous. There, Momori-chan, calm down, they're not poisonous, said Issei, approaching to stroke Momori's head, who calmed down at his touch. Besides, they're leaving now, look, said Issei, looking at the ground and letting out a little of his dragon energy, scaring the snakes away. Phew, thank goodness, said the girl, now relaxed, as she climbed down from Mirai's back. The first thing the little girl did was hug Issei, who returned the hug. Thank you for scaring away the snakes, she said to Issei, who just smiled. Okay, we'd better get out of here, lest some weird creature appear, Issei said, startling Momori. Hahaha, just kidding, Momori-chan, Issei said, and the girl pouted. Issei and Satellizer laughed at that. Mirai just watched them. Issei approached her. How are you, Mirai-chan? It's been a while since we've seen each other, and when we do, it's on an island where we get attacked, haha, Issei said, and the blonde smiled gently. I'm fine, thanks for asking Ice, said the blonde, and Issei hugged her, making her blush a little, but she relaxed and returned the hug. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's good to know you're okay, Issei said, smiling and pulling away from the hug, much to Mirei's disappointment. Issei looked at the other two women and smiled at them. We'd better get out of here, let's go, Issei said, and they nodded to follow him. You're saying I should send Sejima? Kasumi asked Charlotte, who was looking at her nails. Yes, after all, as an A-class student, I should be able to measure my abilities, he said, still looking at her nails. But the problem is Kasumi didn't finish because Charlotte interrupted her. Captain Kasumi, finding quality candidates is Welter's job, there's no room for doubt, the pink-haired girl told Kasumi. Meanwhile, behind the door, a brown-haired girl with pigtails spied on them with a device, listening to everything they said. Is that an order? Kasumi asked. Of course, she replied, finishing examining her nails and glancing toward the door, which in a matter of seconds was reduced to pieces by several cuts, revealing that no one was there. You sly little rat, Charlotte said. Meanwhile, the girl who was spying on them had already left and was running to warn the others. Don't let that front fool you, those flat ones that can echo. Hey, listen up everyone, we have some new girls. She announced to all the girls who were nearby. It can't be, one of them said. How long has it been? 2 months. Another one asked. They all started to approach the girl. And I heard they sent Sejima, she said, surprising all the girls. So, shall we begin, girls? She asked, pulling out a square device. Place your bets now. The girl said excitedly, as all the others approached to bet, all on Sejima. I'm betting everything against Sejima, said a girl emerging from a crowd of girls. They all stared at her in surprise when they saw who she was, while the brunette just smiled. But the group of explorers. Ah, finally, that damn jungle was really big, said Issei, feeling something crawl up his neck, making Satellaizer and Momori scream. Hi, a centipede. You have a centipede on your neck. Momori screamed in fright. Huh? Issei said, gently picking up the little animal and placing it on the ground, watching it return to the jungle. Goodbye, friend, Issei said. Alright, now let's continue, Issei said, noticing the two girls looking at him strangely. Issei looked at them, confused. What? Do I have any other insects? Issei asked, and they shook their heads. How can you not be afraid of that? Momori asked. Easy, my dear Momori-chan, a friend of mine had a pet centipede until we released it in the forest where he found it, he said, remembering when Mitsuda asked him for help to carry his centipede, which he had collected some time ago, to the forest behind Kuo Academy. Alright, now to climb that mountain, Issei said, seeing a path that led to the top of the mountain. A little while later. They were already close to the top. Issei saw Momori looking sad, so he decided to approach her. Are you okay, Momori-chan? Issei asked, placing a hand on her shoulder. The girl wiped away tears that threatened to spill over. It's just that I miss my parents, the girl said. Issei looked at her and felt bad for her, so he hugged her gently. Ice-kun? She asked. Don't worry Momori-chan, I'll find a way to get us out of here so you can be sure you'll see your parents again, Issei said. Really? She asked. Of course, I promise, so trust me, okay? Issei said, smiling and stroking her head. So stop being sad, smile, your smile is very beautiful, Issei said, blushing, to Momori. She smiled through her blush, reassured that Issei would keep his promise somehow. Thank you, Ice-kun, you're very kind, the girl said, and Issei broke away from the hug. Don't worry, you can always count on me Momori-chan, besides, there's also Stella-chan and Mirai-chan, so don't be sad anymore, since you have all three of us, Issei said, and she nodded. Haha, you're right she smiled, they walked a little longer so, where are we going? She asked. I haven't the slightest idea, Issei said, drawing drops of sooty breath from his companions. Look, there's a castle. The blonde with glasses said incredulously, and everyone came closer to see where she was pointing, which turned out to be true. What's a damn castle doing on an island? Issei asked. I don't know, but there must be people there, we're saved. Momori said excitedly as she ran off towards the castle. Momori-chan, wait well, we'd better follow her before something happens to her, said Issei, and both blonde girls nodded and began to follow Momori. Moments later. The group reached the entrance of the castle. They really outdid themselves although my in-laws or Nai-sen's castles are more impressive, Issei thought, taking a closer look at the place. What did you expect? That's how demons are, very demanding about their things, although I have no doubt that the one you buy in the future will be ugly, Drake said. I'm going to buy Dracula's castle in Transylvania, don't you think that would be interesting? Issei joked, and Drake just laughed at that. Ice, come on, Tokunim-san and Shikishima-san are about to come in, Satellizer called to him. Right, let's go, said Issei. Everyone was inside, while Momori was distracted looking at how big the place was. Issei and Satellizer were on the lookout for anything, until the four of them approached the center of the place. Hello? Is anyone there? Momori called out to find out if anyone was there. I don't think anyone's home, Issei said, until a noise caught everyone's attention. Issei and the others were surprised when a wall rose from the floor, several more emerged forming a circle that trapped them inside. Great, now what? Issei asked, looking around, then heard a commotion. What the Issei said, seeing several girls screaming. All the girls were making noise as if it were a show, but then they noticed Issei, and several of them started talking. What? A boy. One of them said. It can't be, how's it here? Another one asked. It doesn't matter how it arrived, it's something beautiful, another one said. They all started talking about Issei and wondering why he was there, but they weren't the only ones. Oh, how interesting, a boy here in Mermaid, this will be very interesting, said a female voice from a secluded spot on the sand next to another girl taller than her. Elsewhere, 3 girls were looking at Issei with interest. Oh, a boy, how cute he is, I wish I could touch him to know what a male body feels like, said one of the 3 with a perverted touch. Ah, you need to calm down, please, can't you stop being perverted for a while? Another one spoke sternly, mocking the first one who spoke. You can't stop me from getting close to that boy, I want to touch him and have him touch me, just thinking about it excites me, the first girl spoke again. Ah, you're hopeless, said the third girl, in a soft but serious voice. You're all boring, said the first girl. Elsewhere, a girl was looking at everything through binoculars from the highest part of the arena. Let's see how this turns out, the girl said. Returning to the group, the 4 looked at the assembled crowd with puzzled expressions, but then the center of the arena opened, revealing a hatch, from which 2 girls emerged. Well, this is weird. I don't think so, since Akeno likes it rough, and this doesn't surprise me anymore since I saw Barakiel-san let Akeno hit him, Issei thought, while Drake was laughing his head off at what Issei said. The girl with the eye patch began to speak. Look, she didn't continue, stunned by the sight of Issei, but she composed herself. But look what we have here, a boy, and a cute one at that. Tell me, handsome, what's someone like you doing here? Don't tell me you're with them. The dark-haired girl asked. Well, you answer that question yourself when you see me with them, right? Issei said with a smile and crossed arms. The girl smiled back. You know what? I like your attitude. Don't you want to have some fun with me after this? I assure you, you won't regret it, she said, smiling lasciviously at him. What a deal. It would be fun, but I don't think I'll be staying here for long, darling, since it seems you didn't come just to talk, or am I wrong? Issei asked, and she smiled. Smart kid, right? I didn't come here to talk as much as I'd like to, I came here to fight, so what do you say, shall we begin? I have a lot of stress to release, unless you want to take it away from me, the girl said, saying the last part to Issei, who smiled. As much as I like that offer, I'll have to decline, Issei said, becoming serious. Satellizer, who was jealous that the dark-haired girl was blatantly flirting with Issei, stood next to him with an annoyed expression, while Mirai placed Momori behind her. What a shame, but it doesn't matter, when I'm done with you I'll have fun dominating you and making you moan my name, he said with a big grin. Miss, try it if you can, but I'm warning you, Issei said, kissing Satellizer with tongue and all while caressing her breasts and buttocks, turning her into a weapon, and getting into an attack position. I play very rough, he said seriously, winking at the girl. I like you more and more each time, I'll tell you my name, I'm Kabami Sejima, what's your name, handsome? She asked after introducing herself. Issei, hi do Issei Daiho Issei. Issei, I won't forget, now she said, pulling on the leash that was tied to the girl next to her to throw her to the floor, leaving her rear end at her disposal. It's time to start this, Sejima said, positioning the rear end of the girl who was moaning with pleasure. Masochist, Issei thought. Yes, totally masochistic, Drake said. Momori blushed when she saw what Issei did to Satellizer, but then she became worried about the girl who was moaning, so she decided to speak from behind Mirai. What are you doing? Stop. He said to Sejima, who paused for a moment. Don't get any weird ideas, said the dark-haired girl, continuing what she was doing before Momori spoke to her. It's a necessary ritual, otherwise he can't get aroused. Sejima said, moving her boots a few more times on the girl's rear. The girl finally moaned to glow. Wow, surprising, Issei said, impressed. He looked at Mirai and Momori. Momori reacted to you, so you should, I don't know, start fighting. Issei said to the blonde, who looked at Momori, who blushed at the memory of the kiss. Hey handsome, I don't like being ignored. Sejima shouted, throwing the ball from his weapon at Issei, who deigned to dodge, and Mirai grabbed Memori bridal style, dodging as well. What a desperate girl, she wouldn't last a minute with me, darling, said Issei, brandishing Nova blood. Stop running away and fight. She yelled, charging again at Issei and the girls, who once again dodged the black-haired girl's attack. I could do it alone, but something tells me Memori and Mirai should try drive again, Issei thought, hitting the ball with Nova blood and changing its direction. All this while on one of the balconies, Kasumi and Charlotte watched Issei in awe. Moments before the battle. But Kasumi and Charlotte both had gone to see how the new girls were doing with Sejima without knowing that they were in for a big surprise. How do you think this will end? Asked a serious Kasumi. Well, they'll lose, of course, Charlotte said confidently. Kasumi just stared at the pink-haired girl who was smiling confidently. They both continued walking to the balcony where they would observe the battle. They heard shouts of amazement from the crowd that would be witnessing the battle, but something threw them both off. Impossible, a boy here. They heard a girl scream, which caught their attention. Did she say boy? Kasumi asked. I think so, but I mean, it's impossible. Governor is the only boy here in Mermaid, Charlotte said, taken aback by the news. We won't know until we see it, Kasumi said, as calm as ever a little. Yes, Charlotte said. They both walked quickly and when they arrived. You must be joking, Charlotte gasped, seeing Issei with the three girls. This is before the fight started. Well, even though it's hard to believe, there really is a guy here. Now we'll see that Kasumi didn't finish speaking when she saw Sadeliza revert to Nova blood, and he's a liberator, Kasumi said, impressed. Meanwhile, Charlotte stared at Issei in awe. She couldn't believe that a man who was also a governor could be a liberator. This guy was interesting. And why aren't they activating drive? Charlotte asked, wanting to change the subject and watching Mirai and Memori dodging the ball alongside Issei. Was it just a coincidence, or Kasumi said, returning to her serious demeanor as she watched Mirai's movements, which were far too good for someone normal, so to speak. Is he intentionally holding back? She asked, still observing Mirai's movements. Although that boy is also holding back, but why? Kasumi wondered to herself. In a high place. Stop running away. If the audience isn't happy, my head will roll. Shouted Mei Frong, the brunette from before, annoyed by the fight. Mei Frong called a female voice behind Mei. The referred to looked at who spoke to her to catch a coin with her hands, seeing in surprise who they were. One for the new girls and the boy, said the blonde with the red streak. Oh, of course, thank you, she said, smiling falsely and then turning her face away with a suspicious expression. Ugh, lady, she thought, watching the two of them leave the place, leaving her alone. But the three mysterious girls. Wow, that boy is so impressive, said the first girl, looking at Issei with great excitement. You need to calm down, the second one said, scolding the first. Although you're right, for a boy he's very good at this, said the third girl, looking at Issei with interest. You know that sounded really feminazi, right? The first one said, teasing the third. Just be quiet, the third girl said irritably. So the three of them continued watching the battle. But the girl up high. The girl with binoculars watched the fight in awe. The more she watched, the more interesting it all became. That boy has potential, maybe he maybe, we just have to wait, she told herself as she continued watching the fight. Back with Issei and the girls. They continued dodging as Issei wanted Mirai to try to do drive with Memori. Issei received the ball head-on and with supernatural strength, literally, stopped it with Nova blood, surprising everyone. Sejima smiled at that. Oh, you're very strong, I like you more and more, darling, but don't worry, when I'm done with you, I'll have fun with you, for a long time hehe, she said with a wicked smile on her face. Issei smiled. It reminded him of Akeno when she killed her enemies, a sadistic face, although Akeno was scarier. Like I said, I play rough, very rough. I don't think you can keep up with me, Issei said, deflecting the ball back to its owner. Issei turned his gaze back to Mirai and looked at her seriously. You should use drive since I won't always be able to be there for you too. So, Mirai-chan, Memori-chan, get started right away, Issei said, deflecting Sejima's attack again. They both looked at each other, although Memori blushed, although she didn't complain since her first kiss was with Issei before he left Kuo, but she was still embarrassed to do perverted things, especially with a girl. Mirai, for her part, thought about what Issei said and decided to do it. Issei was still fighting Sejima, holding back since he came here to find Akira, but now he would help get all these girls out of here, since it was a very bad thing to leave the girls isolated from the others, just because of the A virus. He would talk to Azazel, Michael and Surziches about it when he finished here. Haha, you're very funny, Issei-kun, but it's time to end this once and for all, Sejima said, pulling a string that caused spikes to appear on the ball of his weapon. Spikes? Seriously? Issei asked, looking at the weapon in front of him. See you later, Issei-kun. Sejima shouted, throwing the ball at Issei, who covered himself with Nova blood. When the weapon hit, it raised a curtain of dust from the impact. "It's over, what a disappointment," Charlotte said, watching as Issei was defeated. Kasumi said nothing, as they were about to leave a glimmer appeared through the dust, catching the girls' attention. When they saw what happened, they noticed Mirai wielding Momori's sword, blocking Sejima's attack. "We forgot about her," Kasumi said. Moments before. Mirai looked at Momori and decided to do what Issei told her. "I think we should surrender, maybe it would be better if we retreated quietly," Momori said, as Mirai looked at where Issei was dodging or deflecting Sejima's attacks. "No," Mirai began, Momori looked at her confused. "Where I live, that's not an option," she said seriously, then brought her face closer to Momori's and lifted her chin. "I'm sorry," she apologized, much to Momori's confusion, but she didn't even have time to speak before Mirai kissed her. What? Momori thought, shocked. Their lips collided in a fiery kiss. Something's coming. Momori thought. Mirai unzipped Momori's sweatshirt and lifted her shirt and bra, freeing her large breasts. Mirai then freed her own breasts from her shirt, revealing them pressed against Momori's. The Redeed was surprised but moaned at the contact. Their nipples touched, and as they continued kissing, their nipples moved up and down from the pressure of their bodies, sending a powerful stimulation through Momori. Why is she doing this? Momori thought, overwhelmed by the new sensation, as Mirai lowered her right hand to her thighs, caressing them. But it feels good, I'm going to go crazy. She thought, letting herself go. They continued kissing until it happened. Ah, Momori moaned. Fusion trance, Mirai spoke as she took Momori liberator arm, she said, when a light covered Momori and a celestial burst was seen. They activated drive, Kasumi said, impressed by what Mirai had done. It's about time, Charlotte said. Present. Issei and Sejima stopped fighting as they now noticed Mirai with Momori's sword, XD. Finally, you're ready to play, huh? Although I like playing with the handsome one here, I want to see what you're capable of, Sejima said, pointing the spiked ball in the direction of Mirai, and all the spikes turned into projectiles that went towards Mirai. Hey, I didn't know they were launching themselves. Issei shouted to Sejima, who smiled without looking at him. I'm sorry, darling, but they're still going, Sejima said. Mirai, with incredible speed, dodged all the projectiles, annoying Sejima. It's just a sword. She shouted when she tried to attack Mirai again, but it was too late. There was only a slash, and Mirai appeared behind Sejima, firmly holding the Momori sword as Sejima's arm began to glow. No, not my arm. Sejima screamed and then exploded. And Mirai fell to the ground like a total badass. Okay, that was great, although I would have done it too, I won't always help them, said Issei, approaching where Sejima was lying injured. While that was happening, the spectators were all silent. They didn't think they would win, but they did, and the stingy Meifong was scared of her winnings. The new ones won, Mei said, looking at everything in shock and quickly leaving. The three mysterious ladies saw that without surprise. I knew I would win, said the first one, who had blonde hair and blue eyes, as she put her hands behind her head and looked around with a smile. Her eyes are unlike anyone else's, they show experience, said the second woman, who had dark hair and blue eyes, looking seriously into Mirai's eyes. Yes, she seems very well trained, but the boy, he seems more experienced despite his relaxed demeanor, said the third girl, who had dark gray hair and ice-cold blue eyes, as she watched Issei approach Sejima. He's very intriguing, she added. Untouchable, hahaha, the blonde said, pervertedly looking at Issei and imagining touching some parts of the male anatomy, but then she saw Mirai and her breasts, although I would like to massage those huge breasts, they look soft, haha, the blonde said again, to the annoyance of the other two who let out a sigh. You never change, said the dark-haired woman. HMPH, you need to control your hormones, said the gray-haired woman. But they were ignored by the blonde, who continued with what she was doing. But the girl with binoculars. Wow, that girl was fast. Said the girl with long red hair tied in a ponytail and amber eyes, watching as Mirai finished off Sejima. But when she saw Issei, she knew he was holding back a lot. This boy is very interesting, very interesting. Well, I'd better go back now, because Torino will kill me if he finds out I skipped my duties to watch a fight, the girl said, heading back to where she lived, in a village far from all of Walter. But Charlotte and Kasumi. She defeated Sejima with ease, Charlotte said, her arms crossed beneath her breasts. Let's move on. Is their power so strong that they can surpass Class A? Kasumi questioned seriously, looking at Mirai, but then focused on Issei. And he didn't even try to fight, it's like it's a game for him, Kasumi said, causing Charlotte to look at Issei. Yes, that boy has a lot to prove, and I'm increasingly drawn to discovering what he's hiding, Charlotte said, but they weren't the only ones who saw all the commotion, as in the room where Governor was, Hiriteed was looking seriously at Mirai. Soldier, he said, looking at Mirai, but then his gaze shifted to the only person he would never see here in Mermaid, not even in his wildest dreams. Ice-kun, what are you doing here? Asked Akira Hiragi, governor of Mermaid, looking at Issei with sad eyes. All far away from Walter. Lady, they left with a blonde with a red streak on a motorcycle who was none other than her purple-haired companion. The blonde turned her gaze towards Mermaid and smiled with those lips painted purple. Things are starting to get interesting, huh, Jay? We'll finally be freed from our boredom with that boy and girl here, she said, then headed towards her hiding place. Back with the boys. Mirai was kneeling on the ground with Momori's sword which began to glow and then returned to being Momori who, upon waking, the first thing she did was move away from Mirai, both blushing because of what happened before. Issei was kneeling in front of the injured Sejima and her companion, both in a deplorable state. Are you alright? I mean, I know you're a mess and all, but at least you're conscious. Issei asked, to which Sejima, from her place on the ground, spoke. Why yes, I'm still conscious, although this hurts a lot, Sejima said, and Issei approached and moved her onto her back, seeing that her clothes had been torn, leaving her breasts exposed, although smaller than others, still attractive, along with her toned feminine body. Issei looked at her for a moment, but then put her head in his lap. Tell me, do you see anything you like? Sejima asked. Well, I'd be lying if I said you weren't attractive, Issei said, caressing the girl's belly and making her blush, but you're hurt and we have to heal you. Tell me, why are you doing this? I mean, I tried to kill them, Sejima said, unable to move because of the pain he felt. Well, because I want to and because I can, besides, we all make mistakes, I'm telling you this because I have a friend who used to be my enemy, Issei said, remembering Razor who is now his friend. Besides, I want to get to know you, you seem like an interesting girl, Issei said, still holding Sejima's head in his lap. She smiled at that. You're really weird, but I like it, Sejima said, slowly closing her eyes and feeling relaxed as Issei, without anyone noticing, applied some healing magic that Asia had taught him. I hope to see you later. I'll also introduce you to my partner. She's nice despite being a masochist, Sejima said, and Issei smiled. I'll be waiting for you with pleasure, Sejima, Issei said, and she smiled. Yes, see you later, Issei-kun, she said, beginning to feel her eyes grow heavy with tiredness. It's okay with ice, Sejima, it's okay with ice, Issei said, and she smiled. This is okay, Ice-kun, she said and fell asleep. Issei stroked her head and looked up at the sky. What a welcome, Issei said, but then he felt something was off. Wait, what? Ooh. An explosion occurred in the middle of the battle zone and a large cloud of dust rose up. Something shocked, and when Issei saw what it was, he couldn't believe it. Are you kidding me? He asked when he saw the thing that came out of the cloud of dust. No, mate, I see that shit through your eyes too, and I can tell you it's real, Drake said. What was that thing that came out of the dust that made Issei react like that? That and other things will be clarified in the next chapter. End of chapter 2. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.